And I'll put it up on the screen. But what I'll also say is that I'm going to be reading the I will be reading the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, from a different place in Eitz Chaim. So it's gonna be a little bit complicated because I'm gonna have to be manipulating the screen with one half of my brain and actually reading the Torah with the other half. But if you want to follow the actual reading that I'm going to be doing, it's on page 1509. You can put your thumb or a piece of paper there now to mark it if you have an Eitz Chaim. I searched in vain for a version online for those who don't have an Eitz Chaim, so you'll just have to read you'll just have to follow it on the screen or in whatever Tanakh you have.
How come you're using a different version?
I'm sorry?
How come you're using a different one?
It's a great question. The reason I'm using a different one is because the regular Masoretic text has the Ten Commandments divided into a whole bunch of separate verses that do not correspond to the traditional divisions of the 10 utterances. And so called the lower accents or the lower ta'amim, ta'anin, tachtonin, and the ta'amim ha'elyonim are the upper accents or the upper tropes, which are the ones we say when in the Ashkenazic tradition we stand for recitation of the Ten Commandments in the synagogue. Ben Friedman sent around an interesting article by Rabbi Mark Angel that says in the Sephardic tradition, actually, we sit for we do not rise for the Song of the Sea or for the Ten Commandments because no part of the Torah is holier than any other part, which is, which I certainly can't deny that. But that, of course, that's not our tradition. So we will invite you to go along with our usual tradition. So let me see. I'll put this up on the screen for everyone. And Susan, are you going to be our rabbi and
English reader? Sure.
Great, awesome. All right. Actually, we have a few. I see Lori just joined us, and Susan Cohen just joined us, and I think that's it. So welcome to everybody, and we will get started here. Okay.
The first aliyahs, we're chapter 18, verses 1 to 12.
Okay. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Vayishma Yitro kohen Midyan chotein Moshe et kol asher asa Elohim leMoshe u'Yisrael amo ki hotzi Adonai et Yisrael mimitzrayim. Vayikach Yitro chotein Moshe et Tzipora eshet Moshe achar shilucheha ve'et shnei vaneha asher shehem ha'echad Gershom ki amar ger hayiti be'eretz nochriya. The Shem ha'echad Eliezer ki Elohei avi be'ezri vayatzileni mecherev par'o vayavo Yitro chotein Moshe uvanav ishto el Moshe el amidbar asher hu chone sham har Elohim vayomer el Moshe ani chotencha Yitro ba'elecha ve'ishtecha u'shnei baneha ima vayetze Moshe likrat chotno vayishtachu vayishakalo וישאלו איש לרעהו לשלום, ויבואו האלוהים. ויספר משה לחותנו את כל אשר עשה אדוני לפרעה ולמצרים על אודות ישראל, את כל התלאה אשר מצאתם בדרך, ויצילם אדוני. וייחד יתרו על כל הטובה אשר עשה אדוני לישראל, אשר הצילו מיד מצרים. ויאמר יתרו ברוך אדוני אשר הציל אתכם מיד מצרים ומיד פרעה. ומיד פרעה אשר הציל את העם מתחת יד מצרים. עתה ידעתי כי גדול אדוני מכל האלוהים, כי בדבר אשר זדו עליהם. ויקח יתרו חותן משה עולה וזבחים לאלוהים, ויבוא אהרון וכל זקני ישראל לאכול לחם עם חותן משה לפני האלוהים.
Jethro, priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, how the Lord had brought Israel out from Egypt. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after she had been sent home, and her 2 sons, of whom one was named Gershom, that is to say, I have been a stranger in a foreign land, and the other was named Eliezer, meaning, the God of my father was my help, and he delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought Moses' sons and wife to him in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of God. He sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed low and kissed him. Each asked after the other's welfare, and they went into the tent. Moses then recounted to his father-in-law everything the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardships that had befallen them on the way, and how the Lord had delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced over all the kindness that the Lord had shown Israel when he delivered them from the Egyptians. Blessed be the Lord, Jethro said, who delivered you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh, and who delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, yes, by the result of their very schemes against the people. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices for God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to partake of the meal before God with Moses' father-in-law. The next aliyah is verse 13 to 23.
ויהי ממחרת וישב משה לשפוט את העם, ויעמוד העם על משה מן הבוקר עד הערב. וירא חותן משה את כל אשר הוא עושה לעם, ויאמר מה הדבר הזה אשר אתה עושה לעם, מדוע אתה יושב לבדך וכל העם ניצב עליך מן בוקר עד ערב. ויאמר משה לחותנו, כי יבוא אלי העם לדרוש על אלוהים, כי יהיה להם דבר בא אלי, ושפטתי בין איש ובין רעהו, בהודעתי את חוקי האלוהים ואת תורתו. ויאמר חותן משה אליו, לא טוב הדבר אשר אתה עושה. נבול תבול גם אתה, גם העם הזה אשר עמך, כי כבד ממך הדבר, לא תוכל עשוהו לבדך. אתה שמע בקולי ילעצך, ויהי אלוהים עמך. היה אתה לעם מול האלוהים, והבאת אתה את הדברים אל האלוהים. והזהרת אתם את החוקים ואת התורות, והודעת להם את הדרך ילכו בה, ואת המעשה אשר יעשו. ואתה תחזק מכל העם, אנשי חיל יראי אלוהים, אנשי אמת שונאי בצע. ושמת עליהם שרי אלפים, שרי מאות, שרי 50 ושרי עשרות. ושפטו את העם בכל עת, והיה כל הדבר הגדול יביאו אליך, וכל הדבר הקטון ישפטוהם, והקל מעליך נשאו איתך. אם את הדבר הזה תעשה, וציווך אלוהים, ויכלת עמוד, וגם כל העם הזה על מקומו יבוא ושלום.
Next day, Moses sat as magistrate among the people, while the people stood about Moses from morning until evening. But when Moses' father-in-law saw how much he had to do for the people, he said, "What is this thing that you are doing to the people? Why do you act alone while all the people stand about you from morning until evening?" Moses replied to his father-in-law, "It is because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, it comes before me, and I decide between one person and another, and I make known the laws and teachings of God." But Moses' father-in-law said to him, "The thing you are doing is not right. You will surely wear yourself out, and these people as well, for the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. Now listen to me. I will give you counsel, and God be with you. You represent the people before God. You bring the disputes before God, and enjoin upon them the laws and the teachings, and make known to them the way they are to go and the practices they are to follow. You shall also seek out from among all the people capable men who fear God, trustworthy men who spurn ill-gotten gain. Set these over them as chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and let them judge the people at all times. Have them bring every major dispute to you, but let them decide every minor dispute themselves. Make it easier for yourself by letting them share the burden with you. If you do this, and God so commands you, you will be able to bear up, and all these people too will go home unwearied. Next Aliyah is chapter 18, verse 24 to 27.
וישמע משה לכל חותנו, ויעש כל אשר אמר. ויבחר משה אנשי חיל מכל ישראל, ויתן אותם ראשים על העם, שרי אלפים, שרי מאות, שרי 50 ושרי עשרות. ושפטו את העם בכל עת, את הדבר הקשה יביאון אל משה, בכל הדבר הקטון ישפטו הם. וישלח משה את חותנו, וילך לו אל ארצו.
Moses heeded his father-in-law and did just as he had said. Moses chose capable men out of all Israel and appointed them heads over the people, chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and they judged the people at all times. The difficult matters they would bring to Moses, and all the minor matters they would decide themselves. Then Moses bade his father-in-law farewell, and he went his way to his own land. Now we're at chapter 19, verse 1 to verse 6.
בחודש השלישי לצאת בני ישראל מארץ מצרים, ביום הזה באו מדבר סיני. ויסעו מרפידים, ויבואו מדבר סיני, ויחנו במדבר. ויחן שם ישראל נגד ההר, ומשה עלה אל האלוהים, ויקרא אליו אדוני מן ההר לאמור, כה תאמר לבית יעקב, ותגד לבני ישראל, אתם ראיתם אשר עשיתי למצרים, ואשא אתכם על כנפי נשרים, ואביא אתכם אליי, ועתה אם שמוע תשמעו בקולי, ושמרתם את בריתי. והייתם לי סגולה מכל העמים, כי לי כל הארץ. ואתם תהיו לי ממלכת כהנים וגוי קדוש. אלה הדברים אשר תדבר אל בני ישראל.
On the third new moon, after the Israelites had gone forth from the land of Egypt, on that very day they entered the wilderness of Sinai. Having journeyed from Rephidim, they entered the wilderness of Sinai and encamped in the wilderness. Israel encamped there in front of the mountain, and Moses went up to God. The Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, "Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and declare to the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. Now then, if you will obey me faithfully and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all the peoples. Indeed, all the earth is mine, but you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the children of Israel." Now the next Aliyah is verses 7 to 19.
ויבוא משה ויקרא לזקני העם וישם לפניהם את כל הדברים האלה אשר ציווהו אדוני. ויענו כל העם יחדיו ויאמרו כל אשר דיבר אדוני נעשה. וישב משה את דברי העם אל אדוני. ויאמר אדוני אל משה הנה אנוכי בא אליך באב הענן באבו ישמע העם בדברי עמך וגם בך יאמינו לעולם. ויגד משה את דברי העם אל אדוני. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לך אל העם וקידשתם היום ומחר וכיבסו שמלותם והיו נכונים ליום השלישי כי ביום השלישי ירד אדוני לעיני כל העם על הר סיני. והגבלת את העם סביב לאמור הישמרו לכם עלות בהר ונגוע בקצהו. כל הנוגע בהר מות יומת לא תיגע בו יד כי שקו יסכל או ירו ירא אם בהמה אם איש לא יחיה במשוך היובל המה יעלו בהר. וירד משה מן ההר אל העם ויקדש את העם ויכבסו שמלותם. ויאמר אל העם היו נכונים לשלושת ימים אל תיגשו אל אישה. ויהי ביום השלישי בהיות הבוקר ויהי קולות וברקים וענן כבד על ההר וקול שופר חזק מאוד ויחרד כל העם אשר במחנה. ויוצא משה את העם לקראת האלוהים מן המחנה ויתייצבו בתחתית ההר וההר סיני עשן כולו מפני אשר ירד עליו אדוני באש ויעל עשנו כאשן הכבשן ויחרד כל ההר מאוד ויהי קול השופר הולך וחזק מאוד. משה ידבר והאלוהים יעננו בקול.
Moses came and summoned the elders of the people and put before them all that the Lord had commanded him. All the people answered as one, saying, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. And Moses brought back the people's words to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, I will come to you in a thick cloud in order that the people may hear when I speak with you and so trust you ever after. Then Moses reported the people's words to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, go to the people and warn them to stay pure today and tomorrow. Let them wash their clothes. Let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day, the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people on Mount Sinai. You shall set bounds for the people round about, saying, beware of going up the mountain or touching the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall be either stoned or shot. Beast or man, he shall not live. When the ram's horn sounds a long blast, they may go up on the mountain. Moses came down from the mountain to the people and warned the people to stay pure, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not go near a woman. On the third day, as morning dawned, there was thunder and lightning, and a dense cloud upon the mountain, and a very loud blast of the horn, and all the people who were in the camp trembled. Moses led the people out of the camp toward God, and they took their places at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was all in smoke, for the Lord had come down upon it in fire. The smoke rose like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain trembled violently. The blare of the horn grew louder and louder. As Moses spoke, God answered him in thunder. That's very dramatic. Verses 20 to chapter 20, verse 14.
So we will rise when we get to the beginning of chapter 20. Oh, sorry. Vayered Adonai al har Sinai el Rosh Har. Vayikra Adonai el Moshe et Rosh Har. Vayal Moshe. Vayehomer Adonai el Moshe red ha'ed ba'am. Pen yehersuhu el Adonai lir'ot v'nafal mimenu rahav v'gam hakohanim hanigashim el Adonai yidkadashu pen yifrutz bahem Adonai Vayomer Moshe el Adonai lo uchal ha'am la'alot el har Sinai ki ata ha'edot banu lemor hagbel et ha'ar v'kidashtohu vayomer elav Adonai lech red Ve'alita ata v'aharon imach ve'hakohanim ve'ha'aham al yehersu la'alot el Adonai pinifrot baham vayered Moshe el ha'am vayomer alehem Vaydaber Elohim ed kol ha'devarim ha'ele lemor. So I invite you to rise as you are able. And please be patient with me as I go back and forth between scrolling forward and actually reading the things. Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher Hotzeiticha Meretz Mitzrayim Mi Bet Avadim Lo Yihye Lecha Elohim Acherim Al Panai Lo Ta'aseh Lecha Vesel v'chol timunah asher b'shamayim mimal v'asher ba'aretz mitzachat v'asher b'mayim mitzachat La'aretz Lo tishtachave lahem velo ta'ovdehem כי אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך אלקנה פוקד עוון אבות על בנים על שילשים ועל רבעים לשונאי ועושה חסד לאלפים לאוהבי ולשומרי מצוותיי. לא תישא את שם אדוני אלוהיך לשווא, כי לא ינקה אדוני את אשר יישא את שמו לשווא. זכור את יום השבת לקדשו, ששת ימים תעבוד, ועשית כל מלאכתך ביום השביעי שבת לאדוני אלוהיך. לא תעשה כל מלאכה אתה ובנך וביתך עבדך ואמתך ובהמתך וגרך אשר בשעריך, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, את הים ואת כל אשר בם, וינח ביום השביעי. על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו. כבד את אביך ואת אמך למען יאריכון ימיך על האדמה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. לא תרצח, לא תנאף, לא תגנוב, לא תענה ורעך את שקר. לא תחמוד בית רעך, לא תחמוד אשת רעך, ועבדו ואמתו, ושוכרו וחמורו, וכל אשר לרעך.
Okay, we're going back to verse 20, chapter 19. The Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. The Lord said to Moses, "Go down, warn the people not to break through to the Lord to gaze, lest many of them perish. The priests also who come near the Lord must stay pure, lest the Lord break out against them." But Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, 'Set bounds upon the mountain and sanctify it.'" So the Lord said to him, "Go down and come back together with Aaron, but let not the priests or the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them." And Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. God spoke all these words, saying, "I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods besides me. You shall not make for yourself a sculptured image or any likeness of what is in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am an impassioned God, visiting the guilt of the parents upon the children, upon the third and upon the fourth generations of those who reject me, but showing kindness to the thousandth generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not swear falsely by the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not clear one who swears falsely by his name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son or daughter, your male or female slave, or your cattle, or the stranger who is within your settlements. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth and sea and all that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor your father and your mother, that you may long endure on the land that the Lord your God is assigning to you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female slave, or his ox, or his ass, or anything that is your neighbor's. Now we're reading verses 15 to 23.
וכל העם רואים את הקולות ואת הלפידים ואת קול השופר ואת ההר עשן וירא העם וינועו ויעמדו מרחוק ויאמרו אל משה דבר אתה עמנו ונשמע ואל ידבר עמנו אלוהים פן נמות. ויאמר משה אל העם אל תיראו כי לבעבור נסות אתכם באלוהים ובעבור תחיה יראתו על פניכם לבלתי תחטאו. ויעמוד העם מרחוק ומשה ניגש אל הערפל אשר שם האלוהים. ויאמר אדוני אל משה כה תאמר אל בני ישראל אתם ראיתם כי מן השמיים דיברתי עמכם לא תעשון איתי אלוהי כסף ואלוהי זהב לא תעשו לכם מזבח אדמה תעשה לי וזבחת עליו את עולותיך ואת שלמך את צונך ואת בקריך בכל המקום אשר אזכיר את שמי אבוא אליך וברכתיך. ואם מזבח אבנים תעשה לי לא תבנה את הן גזית כי חרבך הנפת עליה ותחלליה, ולא תעלה ומעלות על מזבחי, אשר לא תגלה ערוותך עליו.
All the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the blare of the horn, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they fell back and stood at a distance. You speak to us, they said to Moses, and we will obey. But let not God speak to us, lest we die. Moses answered the people, be not afraid, for God has come only in order to test you, and in order that the fear of him may be ever with you, so that you do not go astray. So the people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick cloud where God was. The Lord said to Moses, thus shall you say to the Israelites, you yourselves saw that I spoke to you from the very heavens. With me, therefore, you shall not make any gods of silver, nor shall you make for yourselves any gods of gold. Make for me an altar of earth, and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and your sacrifices of well-being, your sheep and your oxen. In every place where I cause my name to be mentioned, I will come to you and bless you. And if you make for me an altar of stones, do not build it of hewn stones, for by wielding your tool upon them, you have profaned them. Do not ascend my altar by steps, that your nakedness may not be exposed upon it. That's it.
All right, so that was a long one. We will now turn to the Misha Berach. So I invite anyone who would like to remember someone for healing today to unmute themselves. And I will go around my Zoom room and name you. And please, you can say the names of those you wish to remember. And I'm looking for my list, but I can't find it. So. Okay. All right. We'll start with Anne.
Allah Reza, I'm unmuted. Okay. Allah Reza, but Daniel Valea, Robbie Lambert.
Thank you. Sandy.
Ellen Zuniga, David Engel, Elaine Skolnick, Alvin Glazerman, Yair, and Rosemary Alroy.
Thank you, Sandy. Miriam.
Eddie bat Sarah, Sarah bat Abigail, Ilan ben Vered, Jean bat Hayedo, Amy bat Rivka, Jerry, Nikki Kermish,
Thank you. Charlotte.
Marlene Sellers.
Thank you. Sherry.
Ruth Bad Sarah, Fatal Bad Hayat.
Ben Friedman.
Avraham Ben Pesach.
Petra and Lauren.
Ruth Bat Sarah.
Jim Leffert.
Tom Kay and Dudley's dad.
Susan Brand.
Sarah Brand, Elizabeth Brand, Judy Turner, and Jennifer Chung.
Lori.
Lynn and Steve Bressler, Bob Golick, and Jean Nelson.
Susan Cohen.
Eric Kellerman, Gail Weisberg, and James Pitler.
Nicole Goldman.
Norman Alexander Gibbs, Doe Mayer.
Harriet.
Sandra Olansky, Norman Newberg, Paul Flicker, Richard Ford, and Inge de Wilde.
Ruth.
Isora Buthan.
Norma.
Esther Wilner.
Adina?
Yona bat Miriam David, Ziva Garbi.
Marty, I muted you because you were moving around. If you want to unmute yourself and say your names, that's great.
Pardon me, Jim. Jesse Levin.
Great. Let's see. Marcia?
Jerry Swanberg and Francine Aaron.
Thank you. Harvey and Helene.
The members of the law enforcement officers who suffered during the insurrection and who are still hospitalized or maimed.
Thank you. And Marty, your video is very strange. Could you turn it off? Because it keeps on toggling between thank you. Oof. All right. Norman, are you willing to sing for us the Misha Berach?
You're putting it on the screen? Yeah.
Page 173.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Ishe Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Okay, so do I have a volunteer for the Haftarah today? Great, Lauren, please.
Okay, with enough practice, we may eventually get the blessings down.
You're getting there. You're getting there. It's great.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza divrehem anemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'Moshe abdo u'Yisrael amo u'b'nei ha'emet v'tzedek. Give me a moment. In the year that King Uzziah died, I beheld my Lord seated on a high and lofty throne, and the skirts of his robe filled the temple. Seraphs stood in attendance on him. Each of them had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his legs, and with 2 he would fly. And one would call to the other, Holy, 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 the Lord of hosts. His presence fills all the earth. The doorposts would shake at the sound of the one who called, and the house kept filling with smoke. I cried, Woe is me, I am lost, for I'm a man of impure lips, and I live among a people of impure lips. Yet my own eyes have beheld the King, Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphs flew over to me with a live coal, which he had taken from the altar with a pair of tongs. He touched it to my lips and declared, Now that this has touched your lips, your guilt shall depart, and your sin be purged away. Then I heard the voice of my Lord saying, Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? And I said, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go, say to that people, Hear indeed, but do not understand. See indeed, but do not grasp. Dull that people's mind, stop its ears and seal its eyes, lest, seeing with its eyes and hearing with its ears, it also grasp with its mind and repent and save itself. I asked, How long, my Lord? And he replied, Till towns lie waste without inhabitants and houses without people, and the ground lies waste and desolate, For the Lord will banish the population, and deserted sites are many in the midst of the land. But while a tenth part yet remains in it, it shall repent. It shall be ravaged like the terebinth and the oak, of which stumps are left even when they are felled. Its stump shall be a holy seed. In the reign of Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah, son of Remaliah of Israel, marched upon Jerusalem to attack it, but they were not able to attack it. Now, when it was reported to the house of David that Aram had allied itself with Ephraim, their hearts and the hearts of their people trembled as trees of the forest sway before a wind. But the Lord said to Isaiah, "Go out with your son Sheir Jashub to meet Ahaz at the end of the conduit of the upper pool by the road of the fuller's field, and say to him, be firm and be calm. Do not be afraid, and do not lose heart on account of those two smoking stubs of firebrands, on account of the raging of Rezin and his Arameans and the son of Remaliah. Because the Arameans, with Ephraim and the son of Remaliah, have plotted against you, saying, we will march against Judah and invade and conquer it, and we will set up as king in it the son of Tabiel. Surely a child has been born to us, a son has been given us, and authority has settled on his shoulders. He has been named, the mighty God is planning of grace, the eternal Father, a peaceable ruler. In token of abundant authority and of peace without limit upon David's throne and kingdom, that it may be firmly established in justice and in equity, now and evermore, the zeal of the Lord of hosts shall bring this to pass. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik b'kol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, hamdaber u'kayem, shekol devaran emet v'tzedek, ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu, v'ne'emanin devarecha, v'davar echad mitvarecha, achor lo yashuv rekam, ki el melech ne'eman v'rachaman ata, baruch ata Adonai, ha'el ha'ne'eman v'kol devarav, v'achen al Sion ki hi beit hayenu, v'alaluva nefesh toshia, imharei v'yamenu, baruch ata Adonai, nisameach Sion b'vaneha, Samkeinu Adonai Eloheinu Eliyahu Hanavi Avdecha U'b'malchut Beit David Mishiecha B'mhara yavo v'yagel libenu Al kiso lo yesher zar V'lo yinhalu od aharim et kavodo Ki b'shem kadshecha nishpata lo Shelo yikpe nero leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai, Magen David, al haTorah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al ha'nivim, ve'al yom ha'shavat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'linucha, lekavod u'letafaret, al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lav, u'mevarachim otav, Yitbarak Shimcha b'fi kol chai, tamid leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabat. Amen.
Yeshkoach. Thank you very much, Lauren and Petra. Now we will turn to the prayer for the country. I'll ask Ben Friedman to read that for us, if that's okay. Ben, do you need it bigger on the screen?
No, I can. I'll sit very close to my screen.
There you go.
Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessings upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed, so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. Adonai, God, whose spirit is in all creatures, we pray that your spirit be awakened within all the inhabitants of our land. Uproot from our hearts hatred and malice, jealousy and strife. Plant love and companionship, peace and friendship among the many peoples and faiths who dwell in our nation. Grant us the knowledge to judge justly, the wisdom to act with compassion, and the understanding and courage to root out poverty from our land. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth, and may you cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. For all of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Jim?
Yeah, hold on one second, Marty. All right, there we go. So unfortunately, we will not have a lot of, we will not really have any time. So Marty, say what you want to say, and then we'll go from there.
Well, more importantly, I hope we will have time in the future for discussion. I was just thinking what a wonderful parsha this was, and how Susan said, wow, she didn't say wow, she said, my, that's dramatic. And we should perhaps next week return to the Torah portion. It's a wonderful portion, God coming down and answering Moses in thunder. Yeah, I had missed that one little answer. He answered in thunder, and it is wonderful. I've heard it for 20 years, but I can imagine hearing it the first or fifth time. So perhaps we could save time next week. Okay, Jim?
We'll see. We'll see how it goes next week. We of course we got next week's parsha already next week. So the Torah waits for no one. But we'll definitely see.
The Torah speaks to everyone.
It certainly does. It certainly does. So anyway, I would just since unfortunately we don't have time to really discuss the Torah, I would just I'll mention one thing that I noticed this week. Not about the Ten Commandments, although those are of course of great interest, but simply that when Jethro offers his counsel to Moses, Moses says, yeah, I'm going to listen to you. And he does. And he does it. He doesn't say, I know what I'm doing. Don't tell me what to do. He doesn't get defiant and annoying. He just takes Jethro's advice, and things do seem to go smoother. So, Jim, I'm going to ask you to wait to say whatever you wanted to say until afterwards, so that we can let people who are eager to get to lunch or to Talmud study in Portland to do that. And then we can stick around a few moments after the service to discuss if you'd like. Okay. All right. So page 199 in your Eitz Chaim, and I'll put it up on the screen. Yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. Mekadesh Shvi Shabbat. Kulam yispehu v'yatanagu b'tovecha Shabbat. Yismechu b'malchutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malchutecha shomrei 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 Shabbat v'kor'ei oneg Shabbat. Page 201. Sim shalom tova uveracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד, כולנו כאחד באור פניך. ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד, כולנו כאחד באור פניך. כי באור פניך נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו תוחת חיים, באהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום. בטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך, לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Okay, so we'll turn to page 205 for the Elenu. Please rise as you are able. Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol, l'atei gdula liyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kagoyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech, malchei hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu notei shamayim ve'yosed haaretz, u'moshe v'ikaro b'shamayim imah, u'shchinatu zo, begovei meromim, Hu Eloheinu enod, emet malkeinu efesulato, kakatu betochato, v'yadata hayom ve'yashivota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, b'shamayim mimah, v'yal ha'aretz mitachat enod. Kenich Evelcha Adonai. בכל בני בשר. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יחיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. So I invite you to unmute yourself and name people who you would like to remember for Kaddish today as a congregation. Of course, we're going to be remembering Faye Mickelman. Charlotte, if you'd like to say a word about her, that'd be great. And everyone else, let's I'll just go around the room and let people say their names. Okay, so Sherry.
Faye Middleman.
Thank you. Ben Friedman.
Your site for my father.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead. Oh, Jerry is here.
Harold Cohen.
And let's see. So, Charlotte, go ahead. Feel free to.
Faye, I wanted to talk about Faye a little bit. Actually, her cousin, who's in New Haven, Jim Serling, coordinated a Shiva service for her this evening. She was associated with Bethel in Belmont for quite a few years. So Rabbi Krause there is coordinating the service. And I think you announced it, Rabbi Jim, and you gave the Zoom link. But whenever I think of Faye, I think of the Hebrew word hesed. She was really the embodiment of hesed. Completely non-self-absorbed, non-egotistical, always present, the best listener in the world. And I wanted to thank people in the Minyan who really gave me much support and consolation. It really helped me a great deal.
Thank you, Charlotte, and we will remember Faye and keep her in our hearts. All right, so I invite you to rise as you are able, and we will And Charlotte, if you're up for it, you can lead us in the Kaddish. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Yalma, Yute, Yamlich, Malchutem, Mechayechon, Mechon, Ubchaye, Beit Israel, Ba'agalah, Man Kachiv, Imramen.
Amen.
Lam Olmei Maya. Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yita'ar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shemed, Kucha.
Richu.
Ela, Mincho, Birchata, Vishpiata, Tushbechata, Emata, Da'amiran, Dialaman,
Amen.
Yehe, Shlama, Rabba, Min, L'chaim Aleinu, V'al in Ramen.
Amen.
Aseh Shalom. Hallelujah. Aseh Aleinu v'Koish v'Tevil. Hebrew.
Amen.
So I invite you at this point to So if you look on the Minion Bulletin, you will find the Zoom link for the service tonight. And Charlotte, before right after services, I'll just chat with you for 1 second before you rush off, if that's okay. Okay. And okay. So I will open the floor to announcements.
Reverend, I just wanted to say Yasher Koach on a beautiful reading.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. It's such an honor to be able to read those portions.
We have some exciting things coming up I want to mention. On the 14th, that's a week from tomorrow, at 11 o'clock in the morning, we're having a morning schmooze and learn with Sidra Ezrahi. She's going to be talking to us about, from her new book, about 3 Jewish liturgical poets, Paul Celan, Yehuda Amichai, and Don Pagis. So that's a week from tomorrow at 11. And then on Thursday evening, the 25th, we have celebrating Purim by Zoom. And the service will start at 6:30. The Megillah reading will start at 7. And in the vicinity of 8 o'clock, we are going to have our 10th annual Purim Spiel, which is entitled COVID in Helm. And I know I'm looking forward to that. And then on Sunday, the 28th, our book group is going to be meeting following Maariv at 7. Our book group is going to meet at 7:30 and talk about the novel The Orchard by Yochi Brandis.
And I will be sending out a note. Yeah, one moment, Helen. I'll be sending out a note, I hope a little bit later this week to Megillah readers. So if you are a Megillah reader or if you'd like to be a Megillah reader, please let me know and we'll find you a few verses to read.
Oh, I have something. Terry has something. Also, let's not forget the Mishloach Manot exchange, where people are invited to either or give Mishloach Manot a little package of Hamatashin and something else, and or to receive Mishloach Manot, and you can sign up on the link that's on the bulletin. So look for it. But we could use some more people, so even if you can't give them, then you can at least receive them.
It's almost a mitzvah to receive them because you're giving someone else the opportunity to do the mitzvah of giving them. So don't be shy if you're not up for baking hamantashen for whatever reason. It's not a problem if you can, just as long as you're willing to receive. It's great.
Yeah, and you don't have to bake them yourself. You can go to Whole Foods and get them there, and go to the butchery or Couples or anywhere.
Go to Costco and get the mass-produced ones.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Harvey, Helene, rather, go ahead.
Where do we send checks? We on Purim. We
So
often.
I put on the Minyan bulletin. There is a link to Yad Chesed, and you can donate either online if you're comfortable doing that, or I'm sure that on their donate page they have an address. I think they're in Waltham now. I don't know the address off the top of my head.
You think of everything. Thank you.
You're welcome. I wish I did think of everything, but I think of some things. All right.
Most things.
Anybody else with an announcement? Okay. Great. All right. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you to everyone for making the effort to be here and helping us make our minyan and to celebrate Shabbat and to celebrate the Torah. And if you want to stick around afterward for a brief moment, we'll listen to what Jim has to say about the Torah. But I don't want to hold people who need to get to a hot date for Shabbos lunch. So, all right. So we will turn now to page 211 for Adon Olam. Adon Olam Hashem Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chefetzo Zai Melech Shemo Nikra Zai Melech Shemo Nikra B'acharei Bichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hoveh V'hu Yihyeh B'tifara והוא יחיה בתפארה, והוא אלי, וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי, בעת צרה, והוא ניסי, ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו, הפקיד רוחי בעת אישן ויעירה, והמרוחי, גביעתי אדוני לי ולא יירא, אדוני לי ולא יירא. Shabbat Shalom. I think I may have forgotten a verse, but
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
if I did, I apologize.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that Robert Alter in his commentary cites that Umberto Catuto and other commentators who found something very interesting about the story with Moses and Yitro, and that is that in some respects it's a reverse of the story that immediately precedes it from the end of last week's Torah portion. In that story, Israel encounters this other nation that is bent on Israel's destruction. And here, Israel is encountering another nation, and they're having harmonious relationships with that other nation. And it's amazing, there is actual words in the two stories that are parallel to one another. So this is what it says. It says, the Jethro episode, the Amalek episode begins and ends with a repetition of the word battle or war, whereas the Jethro episode begins with inquiries about well-being or peace. And near the end, the people of the Jethro episode will come to its place in peace. And then also in the Amalek episode, Moses chooses men for war. And then in the Jethro episode, he chooses men to carry out justice. In the battle of, in the Amaleks, he sits on a stone. And in this one, he sits in judgment. And in the Amalek one, if you remember, his hands are so heavy, they have to put a rock under them to hold them up. And in the judicial burden, in the story of Jethro, he's judging the people, and it's heavy for him. So it's really interesting that there is this parallelism, but it's the opposite about the two nations, one of which wants to destroy Israel, and the other which is friendly to Israel. So that's
very nice.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. Any other comments about today's portion? I see Adina is unmuted, and so is Harriet.
No,
Sandy is unmuted too.
Who is?
Sandy.
Oh, Sandy. Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, I'm offended by the rule about the women. Don't go near women for 80 days.
80 days?
Oh, 3 days.
3 days. It's bad enough. 3 days is bad enough. We don't even make it worse.
Women are people.
Absolutely.
Population.
And it's important to note, Sandy, in that regard, right, that God says nothing about staying away from women. That Moses adds that his own self, and so as you may have noticed that I tend to lay in at a fairly high volume, and I actually lowered my voice. I hope sufficiently to be noticed by the group, but I'm not sure that my microphone would have not corrected it, so to speak. But that was the idea behind that. That I also take offense at that rule.
And notice who does the praying here. For the most part, it's women.
Of course, because we are an egalitarian minion, and we think that it's important that women are front and center in our community.
At least half.
You do see a lot in this Torah portion on social distancing, however.
Yes, that is for sure, especially from mountains. You've got to stay away from mountains. But it's all. But just another response, Sandy, to that is that the tradition also sees a distinction, right, between Beit Yaakov and Bnei Israel, right, which is used in the tradition to make it clear among many other passages in the Torah, right, that what God says is for the women, right? They say Beit Yaakov is the women and Bnei Israel is the men, right? So both are explicitly included in being a subject to God's law. It's not as though women are not allowed to hear. So that's an important sort of counterbalance. So to speak. Go ahead, Miriam.
I just wanted to put in a little bit of a plug for one of the Hagim. If people want to focus more on chapters 19 and 20, that's the Shavuot, and perhaps we would continue the discussion then.
It's a great idea, Miriam. Great idea. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, very much for a wonderful time. And Charlotte, you can just say yes or no. If did you get my little note? Yeah. Okay. So just tell me what you'd like to do, because I'm going to write a note to Rabbi Krauss, letting him know if there's anyone that wants to. So.
Jim, it's Marty.
Go ahead, Marty.
I was going to speak about Jethro, but I'm so glad that people spoke, 2 or 3 people, about women. It's so wonderful to look at this room when it's empty and there's no separation between male and female. And Brandeis on Fridays, they often would walk by the room of the where the room was separated between men and women. I always found it so, I don't want to say offensive, but offensive that young women were brought in this way. But the other thing I was going to say, as Susan Brand said, again, that this is so wonderful to see Moses interacting with the Lord. The Lord has answers in thunder, and he speaks to the people, and we see so much between Jethro and Moses, and as Jim said, or someone else, that you notice when Jethro says something, makes a suggestion to Moses. Moses accedes to it. He willingly accepts it and happily, and leaving such a message, unspoken message, at openness to suggestions, especially of elders, especially to Jethro, not born a Jew. So
Can't tell
I wanted to add that.
fashionable.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mikkel. Thank you, Marty.
I don't want to talk about this parsha because I have too much to say, but instead just want to say what a pleasure it is for me to see Charlotte's face,
Yes.
even here on Zoom. I realize I miss you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So good Shabbos, everybody, and I will look forward to seeing you all next Shabbos, and yeah.
Stay well.
Everyone stay safe. Good Shabbos.
Good.
Shabbat shalom to all.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm going to talk to you afterward.
So so I think most people are gone, Charlotte. So it's so Rabbi Krauss asked if I would like someone to from the minyan to say something at either during the formal part of the Shiva service, or if people would just like to add their 2 cents at the end. And I said, let me check. So the person I thought of was you or Adam Simha, who might want to do it. But since you were closest, I think, with Faye, I was thinking that might be nice if you felt up for it. If you don't feel up for it, it's
yes. Jim sent me a note, and yes, I'm scheduled.
Oh, you're scheduled already. Great.
I'm scheduled already with
Phenomenal.
my cousin.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your giving the Zoom notice and so forth.
Yeah.
I really didn't even think about a Shiva service for her, given the circumstances.
Right.
And, so I was surprised that he wanted to do that, but
Yeah.
he knew her all his life.
Yep.
And he felt, and during the time that she was hospitalized, which was since the end of September,
It was forever. I can't believe how long.
constant
Yeah.
dialogue practically every day about her.
Yeah. Oh.
And it was so horrible. And the last one, I must say, at Newbridge was a complete disaster.
I'm really shocked. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, she was in the rehab unit and she was slated to go home. And I was part of a conference for the discharge. And and Faye, of course, wanted me to be there. And she kept asking me if I'm going to be there. And I kept telling her, Faye, what's the sense of having, by that time she had COVID.
Oh.
And I said, what's the sense of having a discharge when you have COVID? They don't know, So they did. All of a sudden, I said, forget it. They'll never have it. And she called me very early in the morning and she said, Charlotte, they're having it today. And I was full of disbelief. I couldn't.
Right.
Yet they had the discharge summary, little conference. The doctor wasn't even there. And I sent a note to her cousin that night. And I said, this is unbelievable. I don't understand it. They're treating COVID too lightly because she has all these, underlying terrible conditions.
Yeah.
And the next night, they said, oh, she's in the hospital. She's seriously ill. So I was so, honestly, I couldn't believe it. And then after that, they altered that same day, they altered her discharge date, not from the 21st to the 31st. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't comprehend it. So that was my last conversation with her. Are you going to come to the conference? And the next evening, oh, she's in the hospital. She's very serious. So I was so upset about the handling of it.
Yeah.
Yet I couldn't do anything. I didn't have the healthcare proxy.
Right.
It was Jim who had the healthcare proxy.
Yeah.
I didn't feel, and since he was her closest relative, I didn't feel, I was maybe I was I tried as much as I could, but I couldn't overrule him. I couldn't, I couldn't I couldn't say what I truly felt because it would have caused such,
Yeah.
he felt he was doing his best,
Right.
as did his wife.
Right.
I don't know whether you spoke to him. Did you ever?
I never spoke to him. I communicated with him by email, and he connected me with Rabbi Krauss.
Yeah. So I was really upset.
Yeah. Oh, Charlotte.
I thought to myself, well, if this had been, a heart attack or something else with all that she suffered, I could have accepted it. But
Right.
I felt that it was medical malpractice. That's what
It's really, I mean, it's so disappointing because, I know that COVID, I know from my own experiences that COVID is just it's completely sneaky.